special guest, Pete Buttigieg. Common Sense Kansas, and I just want to thank everyone for coming out here today, for knocking on doors, for making phone calls, for making the difference in this election that will happen in 20 days, especially with early votes starting today in Kansas. We have knocked on over 300,000 doors so far, and we have to knock on at least 300,000 more in the next 20 days. So we have some organizers floating around the crowd right now with clipboards decided to volunteer. I don't know if they want to raise their clipboards, but please sign up to help us canvass and make sure that we win up and down the ballot on November 8th for Common Sense Leaders in Kansas. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the man that you all came here to see, Pete Buttigieg.
This afternoon. It feels good to be in the UAW hall for one thing. Thank you for hosting us. I come from, originally, as you know, from South Bend, Indiana. That's home to UAW Local 5, UAW Local 9, and I am proud to stand with a president who understands that the middle class built America, as he always says, and unions built the middle class. Mayor, great to be with you. Thank you for everything that you do. The job has only become more demanding. Mayors, I should say, only more demanding since I wore it. And we're so blessed to have good local leadership getting things done on the ground. Candidates for important offices up and down the ballot that are going to make such a difference in everyday life. And that's why I had to, I'm pretty busy over on the day job side, but I couldn't miss a chance to take a little bit of time and come out here and be with you and urge you on in this critically important election where your work might well be the difference in the governor's race, in sending Sharice Davids back to Washington. With Sharice, who's at an official side event with another member of the cabinet, our friend Marty Walsh, who's here in town on the official side. But I think Sharice's mom is here somewhere. Thank you for Sharice Davids. And I'm so excited to be here helping to drive out that vote for your fantastic Governor Kelly, who's doing such a good job. The last time I was here in Kansas, at the Washington Days dinner a few years ago, you had a different governor, and there was a different approach that was being pursued by state leadership in Kansas, the so-called tax experiment. A lot of us would argue that public services and the well-being of families and children isn't the sort of thing you go experimenting on. Then again, the whole idea of an experiment is you get the results and you find out whether something's a good idea or a bad idea. And we found out. That disastrous tax experiment under Sam Brownback brought national attention to Kansas and proved what happens when somebody practices all the way to the extremes of philosophy of cutting taxes for the wealthiest and then cutting services for everybody else to pay for. And it turns out that doesn't work. It tanked the economy here, kept public schools dramatically underfunded, and so I think it's no accident that Governor Brownback decided to leave not only the state but the country. What is a little bit surprising is that anybody thinks that a disciple of Sam Brownback ought to be the next governor in Kansas. I think we know better. I think we know that the governor you've got is the right one for the future. About the official side, but nothing stops me from noting here in your state policy that so-called tax experiment also stole billions of dollars from the Kansas Highway Fund. Mm-hmm. And we all know that if you don't fund your roads, you get holes in those roads, which create damage to your cars, which is an invisible tax known as the pothole tax on everybody. And so it's one more reason I admire your governor, because she understands the importance of infrastructure and started or completed hundreds of infrastructure projects that are making the economy stronger and life better in every part of the state. Including projects that were abandoned by the previous administration. And she understands that it's not just about physical infrastructure. That digital infrastructure is just as important. That we need that broadband access for everybody, because it's not a luxury, it's a necessity in today's economy. This governor in the history of Kansas to dedicate state funds to expand high-speed internet access, because we know that whether you were a student trying to do your homework, whether you are a farmer trying to make sure that you're on top of the latest market conditions, or whether you're just trying to get and do a job in today's economy, you need internet access, and that's exactly what she's seeing to it is available in every part of this state. That's the kind of leadership that understands that you get what you pay for, and you need to use those public revenues for public good. And she's been finding ways to put money directly back in the pocket of Kansas. We all felt the pain of pandemic-induced inflation, so she worked across the aisle to help eliminate the state tax on food when it came to the sales tax. One other special I know there's a lot of parents, a lot of grandparents here tonight. I've become a parent since I last saw you. Something that changes your life, turns your world upside down. I don't know if it's been like that for you. Just when you think you understand what to do, they grow more capable of defeating you. I can't believe I complained about diaper changes when all they did was lay there. Now they know how to take the old dirty diaper and wave it around after putting the new one on and throwing it away. It's really something. And of course, it's a beautiful thing. It's an amazing thing, and it changes your relationship to the future. And of course, it reminds you of the importance of quality public education for everyone living. Now again, that disaster of the tax experiment, that left schools so underfunded that some of them were forced to be open only for 4-day school weeks. Teachers were fleeing the profession. Do we have any teachers in the house? Thank you for your public service. And by the way, during that process, the would-be governor, Derek Schmidt, in his then job as Attorney General, took taxpayer money to go to court and defend those tax cuts affecting public schools. I can think of some better uses for that funding, like, I don't know, funding public schools. So isn't it nice to have a governor who has seen to it that for 4 years in a row, public schools have been fully funded in the state of Kansas? That's what it means to be an education governor. You have an opportunity, I'm not just here because of the stuff that we got to prevent and the bad outcomes that you're trying to head off and the bad experiences you're trying not to return to. I'm here because of the good things you're building, the opportunities ahead to take this progress and carry it even further, especially when it comes to the economic potential of this state. The chance to create jobs, good paying union jobs for everybody in Kansas. An opportunity to finally expand Medicaid so that everybody participates. An opportunity to legalize legalize medical marijuana and get with the rest of the country on that opportunity to protect kids from discrimination and recommit to Kansas being the best place to live and do business. That is the vision that we see. That's not what you have in your would-be candidate for governor. The folks I see running on the other side of the aisle for Congress and these other jobs, they seem to be single-mindedly focused on the culture war issues that divide people. And you got to ask why. Why, if they were confident in their policies, would they be trying to get us to argue over Donald Duck and Disney instead of how to make sure that we take care of the basics in our lives? And I think the answer is that we have reached a point where actually the majority is already with us on issue after issue after issue. The majority of Americans already agree that climate change is real and we ought to do something about it. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent, most Americans already know that that's real. Most Americans already understand that when it comes to education, the most important thing isn't what books you can take off of the shelves of the library, it's getting the funding into the schools so the teachers can actually do their job.
Yes.
Most Americans already agree with us. The most important thing you can do for kids is not worry about whether they're going home to two moms or two dads. It's worrying about whether they get home safe and making sure that they do. Americans agree that it's more important to give families a break on their family budget than to give giant corporations a break on their taxes. And especially when we're in the Midwest and in my part of the country, in the so-called red states, I think it's important to emphasize that most Americans already agree with us that God does not belong to a political party. For those of us who are guided by our faith, that many of us feel called by our faith to lift up the oppressed, to identify with the stranger, and to seek leaders who walk in the way of humility and compassion, not those who beat their chest about how great they are. Understand that no party has a monopoly on patriotism, that loving your country means, as Lincoln said, not my country right or wrong, but where it needs to be better to make it better. And that's what we have to do. So look, here's the funny thing. When it comes to the actual issues, when it comes to what to do about the issues of the day, the economy, healthcare, education, and our future, we've already won the argument. But here's the thing. Just because you won the argument doesn't mean you win the election. That's where you come from. This is going to be a razor-thin election. There's a reason that so many people around the country are looking at Kansas, asking about Kansas, watching what's happening in Kansas. First of all, you sent a hell of a message to the country on that. Turns out and votes. And we know what happens when you talk to your neighbors. And look, there are a lot of folks who might think they're the only one who thinks the way they do on their block or in their church or at their workplace until somebody knocks on their door and lets them know they're not alone. And then a second person does, and a third person does, and then pretty soon, just like you found out in August, you've actually got yourself a majority. Not just a majority of public opinion, but a winning majority at the polls that can decide what the future of this state and country are going to be. That's what you're saying. So, we've got just under 3 weeks until the election. Matter of fact, early voting begins, if I'm not mistaken, today in places like Johnson County. So welcome to Election Day. Welcome to the longest election day of your life. We're going to go on for the next 3 weeks. Are you ready to work every single day of those 3 weeks to get things done? It's going to come down to you. Volunteers are the backbone of a strong ground game. And Common Sense Kansas is officially the largest voter outreach program that the state of Kansas has ever seen. That's what you told us. Our election day, your target is to knock on 1 million doors, make 5 million calls, and recruit over 2,000 volunteers across the state. Are you ready to make that a reality? Good. Because we're counting on it. Everyone's counting on it. The country's counting on it. It's going to matter so much. And I just leave you with this. This isn't just about getting through this moment. It's about the future that we're building right now. Because what you're doing, and I know it's hard. I know you got more than enough on your plate, more than enough keeping you busy, at home and at work, to give your precious time and resources to go knock on doors and talk to strangers. And it may not always be a crisp, cool, beautiful, sunny day like this when you're getting asked to knock on doors. I'm from the Midwest. I know what the days leading up to Election Day can sometimes be like. I know what is being asked of you is not small, but it is nothing less than the project of building a better America. We're on our way to seeing something in our lifetimes that the world has never actually seen. A truly full-scale, fully inclusive, participatory, democratic republic that actually lives up to the name. That's no small thing. If we can achieve that, and we will, in our lifetimes, it will be as big a contribution to humanity as the founding of the United States itself. That's what we're part of when we do this. That's what you will have a chance to look back on these tender and turbulent years in the American 2020s and say that you were a part of. So I hope that is propulsion for you as you get out there on what might be a long road through these next 20 days. So are you ready to talk to every neighbor you can find about what matters in this election? Are you ready to talk to your friends? Are you ready to talk to their dog if you think they can be signed up as a volunteer to go talk to others? We've got 20 days left. Let's get to work. Let's make each other proud. And let's set me up to be making a lot of congratulatory phone calls that Wednesday morning after the election.